Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Right.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Jumbo Commander, and there are more Dominaria legends to unpack. Let's talk about Slimefoot the Stowaway. 1 black-green for a 2/3 legendary fungus. And whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot the Stowaway deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. 4 mana, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Slimefoot Stowaway is just another example of the awesome mechanics coming out of Dominaria. Let's see what a deck built around Slimefoot Stowaway would look like. Well, I think the first thing we have to focus on are saprolings. This has a great trigger when saprolings go to the graveyard, and it creates saprolings itself. This might not even be limited to saprolings alone. This could influence an entire token deck. And as I'm looking at this great draining ability, it has me reminded of an aristocrat strategy. An aristocrat strategy is where you sacrifice tokens and then drain your opponent slowly out. And Slimefoot does both. It does the draining and it does the token creation. And this is looking like a really synergistic strategy. And also, when I'm looking at this create a 1/1 green sapling creature token ability, I gotta think of combo. Because there's no tap, it's just 4 mana. And so if we have the ability to create tons of mana, then we will create tons of saprolings with just our general. There's so much to talk about. Let's jump right in with Saproling Tribal. Is it worth it? I mean, saprolings, they're 1/1s and they're created by other creatures. They're only tokens. I can't cast a saproling. I cast like a fungus and then that creates a saproling. I mean, how many hoops do I have to jump through to get this token? If I look at 2 great saproling producers, Sporloth Ancient and Spore Sower Thallid, I can see that this is not going to come very easily. They each put spore counters on themselves, and then you can get rid of 2 spore counters to make a saproling, or Spore Sower Thallid basically puts more spore counters on your whole board, and we can see that this is a little bit convoluted. If we rely just on this kind of ability to create saprolings, it's not going to be good enough. But man, this is kind of fun. Both of these were reprinted in Modern Masters, but I remember this fungus strategy, and it was a really cool, interesting interaction. Maybe I'm okay with funguses and spore counters. It feels old school. It feels awesome. And that's one thing that's great about this is saprolings are old. And I know that I mentioned that saprolings are all 1/1s except for the saprolings on a super old card, Saproling Burst, where you have an enchantment that has fading and saprolings with different powers and toughnesses. It's crazy. And it just shows where saprolings have been. And the newest set, Dominaria, has a lot of saproling synergies, and I think you're going to like a lot of them. You're going to notice them in this deck tag all throughout here, and while you're playing Dominaria. I have Spore Swarm right here because it's just 3 saprolings straight on the board at instant speed. Now I mentioned that you can't just cast saprolings. There is no saproling creature type that you can just play. But with a card like Spore Swarm, we kind of are just playing saprolings. They're just through sorceries and instants. That's totally fine. We're not limited to just having funguses and spore counters. And of course, some of the in-between cards like Necrogenesis, giving our Saproling Tribal a little bit of utility. By the way, saprolings have some pretty strong card draw. Psychotrope Thallid has 1 sacrifice a saproling, draw a card. Fungal Plots from the new set just says sacrifice 2 saprolings, you gain a life and draw a card. Oh, the card draw. These cards have me thinking of a great just general token card, Evolutionary Leap, get rid of a creature, replace it with a new one. I think that could slot into this list as well. And also when you're playing 1/1 creatures, Skull Clamp goes in great and lets you card draw. You know, the thing I like about saprolings is the scale at which they come into play. I know that Slimefoot costs 4 mana to get 1 saproling, but Verdant Force, Tendershoot Dryad, and Verdant Embrace, all of them put a saproling creature token onto the battlefield at the beginning of each upkeep. This is awesome in multiplayer. You'll just spew out sapperlings as you pass around the table, creating an army in no time. And you can pump that army up with Verdaloth the Ancient and Namata, Grove Guardian. Both of these are great. I love Verdaloth has Kicker to just flood the board with even more sapperlings. They both pump your sapperlings, but Namata, Grove Guardian, really pumps them because you can sacrifice other sapperlings to just pump everyone else. And I know we got some sapperling production on our commander, but this is one cheaper. That's pretty good. And then the ultimate sapperling producer, Mycoloth, a fungus that devours sapperlings that are already on the board, om nom nom, and then putting +1/+1 counters and spewing out so many sapperlings to just go over the top. You know, I regularly slot Mycoloth in just normal token decks. I wonder what we're missing by going sapperlings instead of normal tokens. Well, some of the token action that really makes this deck tick goes in every token deck. Doubling Season. For this, doubles the +1/+1 counters in Mycoloth, doubles the sapperlings that come out. In fact, this will also double the spore counters going on these old school fungus and then put out more sapperlings. Really, this is the heart of the deck. Doubling Season, Primal Vigor, Parallel Lives. One thing that kind of sucks though is that these are expensive cards. And so we have a strategy that relies on some really cheap, janky fungus, but then also kind of requires you to invest a lot of money in these really great enablers. One thing that's good is that these cards can go in any token deck, so if you get tired of fungus and sapperlings, you can always switch to elves or merfolk or whatever. I don't know why you'd get rid of sapperlings, but, you know, just in case. And there's other things that can double up too. Second Harvest and Sapperling Symbiosis. These are not expensive, so maybe these one-off doublers can replace some of these enchantment doublers. Or you just run all 5 and it's awesome. You know, we can look at some of the other token strategies and maybe embrace some of their strategies. Heck, you could just throw in a Craterhoof Behemoth and that could be our win condition. I think I'm going to lean a little bit more towards a Mazarek Crawl Death Priest, which can pump our sapperling team, which is kind of what we want to do. And actually, Mazarek transitions us to our next topic. It's all about sacrifice. When you sacrifice something, Mazarek puts a +1/+1 counter on our creatures. And when we sacrifice things, Slimefoot drains. And that has me thinking of aristocrats. Aristocrats is an old deck archetype, and I think it's super fun to play. Slimefoot's great, but we can also use Zulaport Cutthroat and Blood Artist. Tons of other cards that drain. Actually, there's not tons of other cards. We're really limited to the amount of aristocrats that exist in Magic. But here's how the mechanics generally work. We're going to focus on Slimefoot because he's our general, and then essentially we need some sort of sacrifice outlet. I like, personally, Ashnod's Altar because it sacrifices a creature and adds 2 mana to our mana pool. So let's say we have, I don't know, 2 sapperlings out on the battlefield. We sacrifice 1 to Ashnod's Altar, we produce 2 colorless mana. We sacrifice another to Ashnod's Altar, we get 2 colorless mana. For each of those that were sacrificed, Slimefoot's going to drain all of our opponents and we're going to gain a life. And now we have 4 floating mana. Whatever will we do with that 4 floating mana? Well, we can use Slimefoot the Stowaway to create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token, but that's where it ends. We run out of mana in this loop unless we have something like Doubling Season that doubles up those sapperlings. If Slimefoot produces 2 sapperlings for 4 mana, suddenly we can sacrifice those to create even more mana from Ashnod's Altar, creating a loop, a combo that will kill everyone. Now hang on, this is cool. Ashnod's Altar is great in this deck even if you can't combo with it. Doubling Season is fantastic. When all of the cards individually are fantastic, it is really good to have a combo with them because you're not losing any traction by including them in your deck. But this combo is pretty good, and sapperlings and funguses and treefolk are not very good. You might notice an imbalance in your deck, where you find yourself constantly winning with a combo like this and not really getting a chance to embrace the fungus lifestyle. That's something just to consider. Sometimes it's good to have a combo to finish out the game, to just end things, and sometimes it's fun to win, even if it is with combo. But you have to know what you're getting into. And remember, you can have a combo in a deck and not pull the trigger. You don't have to automatically kill everyone just because you can. Alright, so if we're sacrificing all of these creatures, we could win the game, but let's say we don't have every piece online. Maybe we get some other bonuses from sacrificing creatures, like Grave Pact or Dictate of Erebos. Both of these can cash in saprolings to wipe the board, and they're very powerful effects. And as long as we're wiping the board, let's talk about Revel in Riches, another win condition that comes out of controlling other people and flooding the board with awesome saprolings. In fact, I like treasures, and one treasure enabler I really like is Pitiless Plunderer, because as creatures die, we will then get mana for them. This is another alternative to win. This is another piece that we can put together if we don't happen to have the Ashnod's Altar of the Doubling Season. If creatures dying gives us mana, that reduces the amount we have to pay into Slimefoot or other saproling creators. Ruthless Knave is also a sacrifice outlet, and it can create treasures, and we can use it to cash in other treasures. This is just a minor strategy, although I do like treasures a lot. I already mentioned some of the other sacrifice outlets to gain mana for Ashnod's Altar, but also for Phyrexian Altar, and there is a fungus that does this. There's a fungal Phyrexian Altar. 1 green mana for a 0/2, and it gets spore counters and puts saprolings into play, whatever, but it says sacrifice a saproling, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. These don't have to be combo outlets. These could be huge ramp outlets, where we put huge things into play and just cash in a couple dumb saprolings. But of course, we need sacrifice outlets too if we're going to combo off, and sacrifice outlets for value. Namada that I mentioned before is a sacrifice outlet. Savage Thallid, Thallid Germinator, Deathspore Thallid, Vitaspore Thallid, and even Elvish Farmer. All of these have free sacrifice outlets. Free for saprolings. Oh, I love it. And some of them have really powerful effects. And so we can see that we can create a lot of saprolings and then cash them in for value, even cash them in for mana to make more, produce more spore counters, get this engine going. And that's what I've described for you, hopefully, is an engine, and one that is a little bit janky and a little bit gross. I want to explain one more combo to you, and this one I think you'll like a little bit more, mostly because it's an infinite combo, truly infinite. In fact, you will tie the game with this combo. It's Life and Limb and Spore Mound. Okay, Life and Limb says all forests and all saprolings are 1/1 green sapling creatures and forest lands in addition to their other types. So every saproling you have is a forest, and every forest you have is a saproling. They're both. Spore Mound reads, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 green saproling creature onto the battlefield. Hopefully you can see where this is going. You play a land and suddenly Spore Mound is, aha, put a saproling into play, and Life and Limb is like, oh, that saproling you put into play, that's also a forest. Then Spore Mound sees its own saproling and says, aha, that's a land, I'll put another one into play. Oh, that happens to be a land, that's weird, let's make another saproling, and oh, there just keeps being forests. And then you just keep going until, yeah, game ends, just infinite saprolings forever. You can't stop it unless you can stop it. Look at all these sacrifice outlets. You can stop it. It might be a little bit hard, but you have the tools to be able to stop this crazy ass combo from going off into infinity, and then you can win the game. Or you can tie the game. Who cares? This is saprolings. This is for our own enjoyment. And I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a super fun deck. It's filled with levels of jank. It's filled with reach to close out games. It's got fungus and saprolings and just the cutest little commander you could ever imagine. More great stuff out of Dominaria, and even more great stuff coming from Jumbo Commander, because there are deck techs on deck techs on deck techs, and I'm super excited to share all of them with you. I hope you all have fun at the pre-release, and make sure to open up some legendary creatures. Bye-bye.